Hey everyone, it's Kelsey from the blog westmanacademyhomeschool.com, and today we are going to be making a super simple Pinafore crossback apron. I've been loving learning more about sewing and working on different projects. This one is super easy and quick, so I wanted to share it with you. If you would like to print off step-by-step instructions or see further details, I do have a whole blog post about this entire project. I am just cutting out my pieces of fabric. The clips you saw before were all of the pieces that you need. You will need an apron top, 2 straps, a belt, and a skirt. It is super easy, super quick. I think that I used about a yard to a yard and a half. You could probably get away with a yard. I do wish that I would have made the top a little bit wider. I actually had a different vision for the straps and the top piece, but this is just kind of how it came out. I made a last minute change, so the measurements on my blog actually account for the top piece being a little bit wider. I am a terrible cutter, so what you see me doing here is just measuring and creating marks all the way across. That way I have a guide for my cutting. That way I can cut my piece straight. That is part of the reason that my top piece came out smaller, because my cutting became uneven and I had to cut off the wider end to try to make it square. There are a few different directions that you can go with making your belt piece. You can turn your fabric inside out, sew along a short edge and down the long edge, and then turn it inside out or right side out, and then sew a top stitch to finish everything off. Here, because my belt is thinner and I want it to have just a beautiful top stitch, I'm actually going to be folding the edges slightly on both sides and pinning it so that it's nice and straight, and just creating a top stitch all the way around on both of the long sides and the short sides. And then creating a hem for my skirt. The sides, I create about a 1/2 inch total, so I fold it over a 1/4 inch and then again another 1/4 inch, and make sure you're front and back stitching. And then I'm just creating a straight stitch all the way down. The bottom hem is actually going to be wider. I wanted it to have a thicker hem, so I probably did 3/4 an inch to an inch of a hem. You can tell in my next clip coming up here that the width of that hem is thicker than on both of the sides. After creating my bottom and side hem for the skirt, I left the top just cut as normal, no hem, and I am changing the tension and the stitch length on my machine to as high as they go. On my machine it is 9 and 5, and this is going to create a gather or a ruffle look. This is called a gathering stitch. Make sure you do not front and back stitch, as you will be using the strings to pull and make your ruffles either looser or tighter. I held mine up to my waist to figure out kind of the width of what I was wanting. Then I'm going to sew the belt on top of the skirt. If you watched my other apron tutorial, you would see that I sewed the sides, the bottom of the belt and the top of the skirt in towards each other so that the seam was hidden. Here I am sewing the belt directly over top so that the belt is nice and flat and you can see all sides. So hopefully you could tell what my plan is for these straps. I don't know if I can explain it super well. I'm just ironing tiny little folds on both sides to make sure that my strap is nice and even, because you know that my cutting isn't. Then I'm going to be taking that square main apron bib piece and placing it inside the middle of the strap. I'm then going to create a hem or a seam from the bottom of the bib piece with the strap all the way up, and I'm going to keep sewing up to close off the strap. Hopefully that makes sense. If you can just kind of follow the video rather than my instructions, hopefully you understand. Make sure you front and back stitch. I wish that I would have made these pieces a little bit thicker, but like I said before, I actually had a totally different route of what I was doing with this top piece initially, so that is why the main bib piece is smaller than what it normally would be. Again, I did, for the blog measurements, change it to make it thicker or wider, and then I just closed off the very top of the strap. That way everything is nice and straight and even. And then what I'm going to do is just take, like I did with the skirt, measure up so that it's directly in the middle. I'm going to pin, and I'm going to follow that same top stitch that I did on the belt. That way I can attach the top to the belt. In order to sew the straps, I just put the apron on and I kind of placed the straps where I wanted them. I actually ended up making this for my friend Macy, which you saw her in the pictures. So I ended up shortening the straps than what you see in this video to make them tighter. I just sewed them to the top ruffle of the skirt, and that completes our apron. Super easy, super simple and affordable. You can find more instructions that you can also print off at westmanacademyhomeschool.com.